Hey guys, this is Tyler Loebertmann from Moon Motorsports. So I just want to take a minute to go over the new lineup of bikes from BMW. We're going to be focusing on the F900XR and then also a glance at the F900R as well. A couple of new exciting bikes from BMW, long anticipated. Just kind of give you the highs of what they did, what they changed compared to previous generations, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'll be happy to try and answer them for you. Like I said, from Moon Motorsports, Monticello, Minnesota, so long-running BMW dealer. Be happy to answer any questions for you, and if I don't have the answer, I will do my best to find it and get back to you with it. So with that, let's kind of get after it and talk through the bike and see what we can learn about it. As you may or may not know already, but the bike's a nice motor size to it. Not a huge motor that it's too heavy to be running around with, but not a bike where you're going to be sitting wishing you had more power as you go from town to town, or even cross country for that matter. There'll be plenty of people that'll be running these all over the place. So 99 horsepower, so that rivals some of the bigger bikes from not that long ago. As these smaller bikes keep getting more and more power and shaving weight at the same time, they get more and more appealing along the way as that happens. You got wet weight at under 500 pounds. I think it's 483 for weight as a fully equipped motorcycle, wet weight that is, with the fuel. So the days of a 1,000-pound bike on a big touring scenario are not necessarily the case at this point. I wanted to kind of get a quick run around on the electronics as well. It's something that as we go through these bikes, it's a really common question as to how everything works on it. So we'll get to that side of it. This is a keyed ignition on this particular model. A lot of the BMWs have gone to a keyless ride setup. This particular one is keyed. Gives it a nice big TFT display, as you can see here. Lots of options for it as far as how to go through the different menu systems and what each of them does. I'll give a quick rundown on how that works and how you're selecting through it. Most of what you're doing is either on this menu button right here, otherwise through the scroll wheel as this part right here. A quick trick as to running through this system, initially does not look all that intuitive, but it actually is really easy to understand. You'll see this kind of squiggly line as you're looking through the system. That will correspond directly with this menu button right here. Without a real close look or understanding of it, you don't realize that or know where it's allowing you to go. So for instance, if I hit this menu button right here, that's going to bring me into this menu system here. So see, I can go left and right, which is what's going to be done through the scroll wheel or the multi-wheel. And then I can go down at this point, which is this lower squiggly line. Now if I press that, which I'm going to do right now, that brings me down into a new menu at that point, or wherever that is selecting me to go. Bringing me back up will get me back out of that. That screen we were just looking at is the sport menu. I'll go further into that shortly. So I just scrolled left, which is done simply by this scroll wheel right here. Gets me through the different displays just like that. In the scenario of where it's at right now, I don't know if you can see on the right hand side of the screen, but I can hit the down button on the menu right now. That's going to bring me into a display that kind of gives me some of the onboard computer information for my vehicle. So this particular scenario is showing your temp, miles till empty, and then obviously the voltage of the motorcycle at this point. Scrolling, worth noting, this is the engine temp at that point, or coolant temp most accurately. This is your outside temperature or your ambient temperature to be exact. Scrolling to the right, as you can see, this arrow right here allows me to scroll to the right. So if I do that, it's going to give me more onboard computer scenarios as to what options we have at that point. Hitting the down button on the menu, it's going to give me the allowance to reset all values or reset individual values. Again, hitting the multi-wheel to the right is going to allow me to individually do that, reset it, and pick and choose what I want to do. Next screen over is basically your trip computer, basically telling you what you have going on for the day as to what's going on the second one. So you'll see onboard computer 1. I don't know if it's focusing real well to see that. Onboard computer 2, and then the next screen is going to give you your service requirements as far as that goes. It's going to give you your 1 year from now service reminder in this case, and then a service reminder, the 1,000-mile service. So it's saying in 994 miles it is going to be due for a service. Something that on a bike like this would get piled on pretty quickly. The next one over is going to be the sport screen. Like I said, that would go over that next. Scrolling down into that, that's basically going to give you a really fun readout, different dash indicator as to what's going on. DTC is dynamic traction control. What that is reading out here is that's going to be your responsiveness for the DTC, what the bike is doing for you at that point. On the opposite side over here is the brake scenario. That's going to let you know how much brake is engaged on that bike along the way. And then the center right here, that's going to give you your lean angle as to left and right. I believe you got to be going over 10 miles an hour for that to engage, if I recall correctly. But then also give you your max left and your max right lean angle. Kind of interesting as you're riding bikes like this to look at those lean angles very consistently. You are far better leaning one way versus the other, oftentimes to the left, but it's kind of fun to best yourself on that scenario. Obviously attack is first and foremost on this screen, being the fact that it is a sport mode. It gives you that as your main thing you're looking at. Up top is your speedometer, and then to the right on the top is your gear indicator and fuel economy, things like that. Going back up, I do not have the phone hooked up right now. I will do that in a different video because there's a lot to it just in that part as well. But if I did have a phone hooked up, I would be able to get into nav through the phone, media, the actual telephone settings, and things like that. Vehicle settings, that next screen that I kind of popped through in a hurry there, but lots of things that you can go through and check out in this. Your shift light, you can change your shift light settings, dynamic pro riding mode, some stuff to be able to manipulate on that as well. You will need to have, you will need to have the plug in for that, and I will show you that. That is underneath the seat, and I'll show you that in just a bit here. I will put in the comments down below as to shortcuts as to where to go to learn more about each individual piece as you're wanting to jump from spot to spot on this video as well. Resetting things, I'm not going to get into all of this, but your date and time and all that good stuff. Connections, I will touch base on this in this video, but I'll get more in depth in a different one. Hooking up your phone, hooking up your helmets, deleting connections, that type of stuff. Probably one of the most common things that people have questions for me on the electronic side of things is where all those hookups are, as far as how to do what, when to rub your belly, tap your head, that type of conversation, because it's kind of intricate as to what to do and when to do it to make sure that it's working the way you want. And then display is going to give you exactly that. It's going to give you your brightness and things like that, and then all of that. If you get way out of whack, you can hit that reset button for reset all, and that'll get you squared away on that side of things. So that in a nutshell is the TFT display. We'll get back to kind of more of the bike at this point. Give you just a quick rundown of the switches that are on this model as far as how this one is equipped. Pretty standard. I got your horn down below, turn signals right here with a push in to cancel. Your traction control is right here. If you look up at the dash, it's going to tell you where you're at. If you do a long hold on this, it will turn it on or off, just like that. Obviously your hazard buttons right here. This will be your scroll wheel for selecting through some of the menu systems. Not to be confused with going up and down through the menu pieces itself, but as you're scrolling up and down within a menu screen where there's multiple layers of things that you're able to select from, for instance, that setting menu that we were just looking at. The handle levers for the clutch and the brake are adjustable. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it here, but there's a 1 through 5 on that as to basically how far out it is from the handle or the handlebar to the lever. You got smaller hands or something, you can pull it back in further, or for my sake, I just like to have a shorter pull so it's quicker action as you're doing that stuff. Nice decent sized windshield on this, and for simplicity's sake but still having some options, they gave a real simple lever on here to be able to raise that up and down. It's on a spring-loaded tensioner right there if you can see it, and basically it just pulls it past the halfway point either up or down, and that gives it a real solid feel at that point. Side panels, a really neat flush looking mounting system, real clean look to those panels. If you look from the side, lots of access as far as airflow to get through. A real close look right here gives you your reservoir as far as fairly easy access. You need a hose or something to get in there as far as filling, but gives you easy access to that as well. This is your 900 motor, basically driven off of the 850 of the GS that we knew of from the last year or two, but given a little bit more cc's for this model configuration. Again, putting it right about at that 100 horsepower mark. Nice sleek exhaust at that point. LED lights, worth noting. Obviously in videos not often showing up very well, but LED lights in there as well. As you could imagine, a model of this styling, you've got chain drive. That does a couple things for you. Obviously keeps the cost in line with what people are willing to pay for a model of this type, but also it's the most direct drive. You got the least amount of horsepower loss. You've got a real straightforward, real simple setup at that point. Suspension adjustment on this one. This is a manually adjusted suspension on this one. This screw right here is going to give you your dampening control, something a lot of people don't pay much attention to, but it totally changes the ride of the bike doing that. And on the other side, I'll get you over here real quick. This is going to be your preload. I had passed by that as we were looking on this side before, but preload adjustment, softening and hardening. If you look at these two holes in here, it's obviously got a bit of a sprocket scenario where you can rotate it if you would like, but those two holes actually line up with a tool underneath the seat, which I'll show you in a second here, but line up with that to give you a little bit more leverage as far as being able to adjust that. Over on this side is where you do release the seat. It's just a quarter turn. This direction, you'll hear it click, and that releases the seat. While I'm down in this spot, not sure if you can see it here, but conveniently located power plug. Real nice as far as heated gear and cell phone charger if you're running a power port up to your jacket or something to be able to charge that stuff up. So pretty convenient. It's down and in line with parts that aren't moving, where a lot of times when people are putting them on the handlebar is switching left and right and bouncing around and stuff. It just makes it a little bit more cumbersome. So this seat I released with that key, lifts up and back and off at that point. Underneath you have a real simple toolkit. You're going to have this part here, which has a screwdriver. You got your Torx right here, simple 14mm wrench right here, and then this is that tool that I was referring to. You see these two posts. That's going to allow you to get a little bit more leverage for adjusting that suspension. More than anything, it brings you out past the point of the fairing in order to be able to adjust that a little bit easier. Super easy access to the battery spot right here. Adding accessories if you're going directly to the battery. Say you have a bad day, you left the key on and you're needing to jump it. Easy access there as well. This little cover goes back on there. I'll fix that a little bit later, but it should be sitting flush when it is done. One thing worth noting, took me a while to find it here, as I am used to running these bikes from BMW and putting the red plug inside here. This is for the Dynamic Ride Modes Pro, I should say. This was attached to this zip tie right here, but it was stuck down and inside. Couldn't see it as I was looking. Generally it's up in this area, some like the GS's and things like that, but this was tucked down. So first of all, it took me a while to find that, so that's where you're going to want to look for it. Also, once I got it out of the zip tie, it was stuck under here to a point where it was quite a chore to get it out from underneath there. Might be just this specific bike, but I would have it a hunch that that is going to be something we'll be up against as people are trying to find that. So again, I'll put a link in the description to get you to this spot right away, but that is going to be something where this cover pops off, this black piece, and then there's going to be a red little plug that you'll put in there. That will give you extra access through your ride modes right here. So you got a rain, road, and dynamic. You'll have some dynamic pro and things like that with that setup. Otherwise, under here, that's basically all that the general population is going to be doing anything with. You can see obviously a lot of electronics that will be things that the techs in back will be working with to diagnose, or if needed to be replace some of this stuff as need be. But super easy access to the seat. As you can see on the bottom part of the seat, and obviously the system of the bike itself, unlike some of BMW's bikes, this is not an adjustable seat. This is a stationary seat as to one way on, one way off. Little spot here for either a toolkit or owner's manual at that point as well, which is nice. How the seat goes back on, obviously it'll flip over. These channels will line up with these posts right here. From back to front, you'll lie it down on here. You'll kind of find its spot, scoot it forward, and then you'll push back here. This is where it actually latches down. You'll hear that click. That means it is on and ready to go. Over to the right-hand side as we come up to the other side, this, like I said, is for your adjustment for your ride modes. Ride modes is going to be your basically your traction control, your throttle response, how the bike is reacting to what you're doing with the throttle, and how much traction the wheel, or the tire more accurately, has as you're going into different scenarios. Say there's rain or sand or snow, as we have up here in Minnesota. That's going to be able to manipulate how that bike is reacting in those scenarios. If you're watching close, I mean, I've got both keys here right now, but as we were releasing the seat in back, you would generally take it out of the ignition and then put it back to that spot, but I cheated and had both keys here at that point. Feel free to, like I said, reach out and commenting on YouTube here or whatever channels you're reading this or watching this through. But also feel free to give us a call if you come up with any questions, want any more info. I'd be happy to do a specific video for what you might have for questions, and we can go from there. Our number here, if you want to call, is 763-295-2920. I'll put that in the description as well in case you didn't have a pen and paper handy there. But give us a call, let us know what else we can do to answer any questions for you, and we can go from there. I will do a separate video on the F900R. Very similar bike, basically same chassis, a little bit different finishing touches in regards to suspension and geometry mostly at that point. Gives you a little bit more aggressive, sporty ride, a little bit more active riding position, whereas this is a very sport touring, can ride this thing all day and be very comfortable. If you notice, the handlebars are much higher, seats kind of tip back a little bit, and the pegs are a little bit further forward. Both great bikes. Be a very good option for BMW at this point. Just a great job on doing both of these models, and I just wanted to give a quick rundown for them, and now you know what I know. Like I said, come up with any questions, don't hesitate to reach out either by phone or just a quick message in the comments here, and we'll be happy to help you out. Let us know what all the videos you want, and we can go from there. Thank you.